can I start by saying thank you to the guys. Thank you to your commitment for Bradford, and thank you for investing in Bradford, and we sincerely wish you all the very best on behalf of everybody who represents this city and this region. It's fantastic to see and hear what you're doing, isn't it? Try and get that in there, because I've got some notes to read from, some cards, and I will get on with a brief presentation. So when I was asked to speak here, I was asked to speak on leadership, and I turned that down, to be honest with you, because I'm not qualified to speak on leadership. There's many people in this room who are more qualified than myself to speak on leadership, but as the introduction said, I've had the privilege of playing professional football for 26 years and being involved in playing and management. And so I did say what I would come and speak on is an ingredients of a team player. We all, in businesses, you all have teams, you all run teams, you all manage teams, you're all part of a team. And I said I would share my experience from my background in that. And also, on speaking about my background as a professional footballer, I'll give you a slight introduction of where I am today, and that is as introduced, being part of the charity 1 in a Million that we birthed here in Bradford and is based here in Bradford. So on the back of that, I'll also touch on some ingredients, what I think helps to make a winning team. And I won't touch on leadership, but I'll put something up about leadership, but I won't really go into that, because as I say, I don't qualify myself as that at all. So just to qualify, from being a knee-high to a toddler, my parents told me that all I wanted to do was kick a football, so that's what I did. Went into school teams, as a lot of people did. I was born and bred down in Sheffield, in South Yorkshire. Went on to represent the school, went on to represent the city for Sheffield boys, and at the age of 15, in my world back then, there's something called the English Schools Trophy. That's like the FA Cup, basically. And you get one chance at that, one chance only, at under 15 level. And I was privileged enough to be the captain, and we won it that year, back in 1984. That's a long time ago, isn't it? As said, I've spent 26 years in professional football. On leaving school, I went in to play for Sheffield Wednesday Football Club. Made my debut, which is called the old First Division back then. It's now the Premiership. Made my debut at 18. Very privileged to do so. Moved on to Hull City, Rotherham United. Spent a fabulous 11 years playing for this wonderful city. And then into management with Halifax and back to Bradford as an assistant manager as well. So I've been involved in teams really all my life, and been part of teams. I've tasted success, I've tasted failure. I've faced some real difficulties both on and off the pitch. I've been involved in relegation, and I've also been involved in promotion. So 26 years of being involved in professional football and teams. I've had the privilege of playing against some of the elite, as was mentioned there in the intro. With our wonderful city, actually, I had that privilege. So playing for Bradford, we hit the top flight back in '99. And as you see on there, some people that recognise for those football fans in the room. Roy Keane over on the left, David Beckham, Gaza, and Kieran Dyer, who at his best was an absolute flyer for Newcastle. Even though I was a defender, I managed to score some goals. I've brought this little clip of it, actually, just for Mark Garrett, who sat there from the university. So he never believed me that I scored a professional goal. So here we go. sadly none of them against Birmingham City, but and did you notice that I didn't score that many? We had to keep replaying the same ones, so but there you go. As a defender, it weren't too bad. But then, obviously, on finishing football, I went into football management, as I said, but at that same time, on finishing playing, I helped to set up a charity here in Bradford called 1 in a Million, and that's our mission statement, if you like. 1 in a Million is a charity that works with disadvantaged children and young people through sports, arts, and enterprise, using formal and informal education to break cycles of deprivation over their young lives, valuing and celebrating their uniqueness and letting them know 1 in a million. So that's what we about, and that's what we hope to achieve with our children and young people. As an organisation, we do put the children at the heart of all we do. Every decision that we make, we try and put their interests first, not the staff, not the organisation or growth of the organisation, but we try and keep them at the centre and at the heart of all we do. And 1 in a million, basically, as it said before, we don't think we're 1 in a million. We let them know they're 1 in a million. They don't have to be. There's so much around us, isn't there? Celebrity lifestyle, etc. You don't have to be anybody else. Who are you? You've got talents. Who are you? When the mask drops, what's your interest? What's your passions? What's your talents? You know, your fingerprint, your eye, your DNA says you are unique. And that's what we're interested in, the real you. Can we find it and get you onto pathways? As an organisation, these are our values. Anybody who comes to volunteer, work, or be involved with us, we first of all say you have to have compassion for the children and young people. You've got to work with sheer honesty on their behalf. Represent them with integrity. Represent them, represent 1 in a million, and represent our city with integrity. And deliver excellence. Again, we're not saying that 1 in a million is excellent. What we're talking about is trying to get excellence to children and young people that because they're born in a certain postcode, they don't have access to it. Hence, we try and deliver and bring excellence to their worlds. That's how we was going to go about it. That's what we decided. We use a hub and spoke model. The 5 white spokes in the middle represent the 5 constituencies of Bradford. The outer wheel would represent projects that we'd go into those areas and run and deliver to them to try and find their interest and see if we can get them on a pathway then into a hub. And the hub would be a facility where we can develop their interests and hopefully just create something that would go on their CV for them. That was our goal in the beginning. So we did, and believe it or not, tomorrow will be our 10th anniversary of running projects in this city. We started up in Canterbury at the at Grange and into the Arc Centre. And as I say, 6th of May 2006. 7 young people and 5 volunteers on a project. And we're proud to say that we're 10 years later, still in the same area and in all those 5 constituencies. This is what our hub and spoke model looks like now. Delivering over 90 hours a week of community and formal education. That outer wheel, as we say, all different projects around sports, arts and enterprise in the disadvantaged communities. Back when we launched, free school weren't even on the agenda. As we were working with children and young people, first of all, out in the inner communities of Bradford, the free school agenda came on and we looked at it and it was, the retro was disadvantaged areas, small schools, small class sizes, vocational education, and it was a fit for us. So we went and put a bid in for a free school and we won that. And that at the moment sits as a building that is that hub that we can run programs out in the community and then bring the young people into, and hopefully just starting those development groups and developing CVs for them. Vision, it's really important, isn't it? As leaders, anybody leading a team, what is the vision? What is the goal? Our vision, the free school's at the centre of where we're at now, and if you can see that, that's moved up onto the outer wheel because that's based in Manningham, and hopefully that'll just be part of our community work. But in the middle, we see a world-class facility for sports, arts and enterprise to help our children and young people. That's our goal and our vision and what we're working towards. So, into what I said are key ingredients for me to be a team player. They're my ingredients. I'm not saying they'd be yours, but in my experience and 26 years of it, playing in teams, these are what I class as If you look at your team or if you're a team player, these are what I would class as some ingredients that we need. First and foremost, the thing that wraps it all for me is, if you want to improve a team, improve yourself. Lots of people, I have a saying, don't look through the window. Don't look at other people. Look in the mirror. Look at yourself. Look at myself. What can I do better to enlarge that team? That wraps all my key ingredients, jumping forward. That wraps all my key ingredients. A team player for me, and of course it makes sense, doesn't it? You've got to be competent in what you do. Competent in what you do, able to play your part. So you only have a part in a team, but you've got to play it and play it well. Competence is not average. To be competent, strives for excellence. And if you like, it's highly competent. Rather than the word competent, highly competent people perform with great consistency. So make sure you play your part, or if you're leading a team, make sure always that competent people are in that team. One that sometimes is difficult in the modern world because of, for me, what we get bombarded with in the media and everything else is, for me, a team player has to learn to be selfless. Has to learn to be selfless. Add value. Add value to your teammates. It's huge, isn't it? It's difficult in a world where we're bombarded with what are you doing, how are you improving, what are you getting. A selfless team player is quiet about self and praises others. And a selfless player creates unity. I heard this recently and I really liked it. In the word unity, you comes before I. So for me, selfless has got to be an ingredient. Next one, enthusiasm. Got to be enthusiastic. Got to be. Enthusiasm. Their heart is a source of energy for the team. An enthusiastic team player. That's one of the ingredients. And the next one for me is committed. This is what was said about commitment. Ordinary people with commitment can make an extraordinary impact in their world. Committed to the vision and the goal of the team. Team player has to bring solutions. Has to bring solutions, can't bring problems. Be a solution bringer to that team. Problems will come, and problems will either stop us or stretch us. And it does, doesn't it? We all have them, we all face them. But look to bring and be a solution bringer. And then the main one and last one for me, if you're going to be a team player, is courage. I go to quite a few and listen to quite a few, and I read quite a few leadership books, actually. And courage seems to be missing out of them. And I look and see that it's always a courageous person that is making a difference. There's got to be courage in that mix. Dropping back into my old world, take Leicester. Look at I honestly believe, people ask me, why do you think Leicester's done so well? And they've got some good players and it's well documented. But I think there's one of their individuals stands out for me, Jamie Vardy. No matter where you put him and no matter what environment you drop him into, he shows incredible courage for me. He shows respect, but he shows no respect as well. And he has the courage just to go out there and do what he does. So there are a few ingredients for me. You'll have some different ones, I'm sure. Building a winning team, I'm not going to go too much into this, but as I presented what we've done at 1 in a million, and you can teach me this, but for me these are key. Vision gives direction. Got to have a vision and share it well to the team, and vision gives direction to that team. Mission brings purpose. Your values shape your identity. Ethos is a determined culture. And then we've got a model which we use to achieve it. And obviously, breaking that down for the team, you're into your aims and objectives. Then within that, once you break that down, you've got recruitment. Really important, isn't it? Recruitment is massive. And in recruitment, that's the time where we found and realized that's where you get the buy-in of who you're going to employ. share your vision, make sure they're well versed in it, your values and everything. And to be on your team, you need that buy-in. They have to be competent and capable, obviously. Strengthen and develop the team. It needs to happen, doesn't it? Invest in CPD, all of that, and talking to people that know. But important for me. And then cost. At some stage, there's going to be decisions and there's going to be cost. They might be personal, they might be team cost, but yeah, there will be a cost to pay and a sacrifice for the big picture. Are we willing as individuals to play in that team and that team sacrifice as well to reach goals? I'm not qualified on leadership, as I've said, but this picture, if touching on where I'm trying to go as a leader and what I would like to become, I think this picture says 1,000 words on the left for me. Some people might disagree with me, that's fine. Boss leader. I hope that if you ask anybody who works with me, they'll try and say, I hope they'll say leader and not boss. That's what. And then the difference between a boss and a leader. I tend to agree with this right-hand side. I'm sure, well, everybody has opinions, but a leader coaches others, inspires enthusiasm, helps to fix it, says we, shows how it's done, depends on goodwill, develops people, gives credit, doesn't take credit, asks, doesn't command, and says, let's go. So that's for me, touching on leadership, and I know I could learn an awful lot from a lot of people in this room. So there's a bit of my background, a bit of who I am, a bit of what I've done, and I know that Gerard said he might ask me one or two questions, but
probably more than one or two. Just come across. So I've got to start with the football questions, to be honest, Wayne.
All right, no problem.
I think it's a fair thing to do. I'm going to start with Bradford City. What do you think our chances are in the playoffs?
Yeah, very good. Very good. I mean, for those who follow the football club, we've hit form at the right time. We seem to have found a settled team. Everybody's back from injury and form is good. But the biggest thing that is, you know, you can never determine it. You can never say for definite we'll win or whatever, but one of the main ingredients for me is that the manager there has got a track record and a history of when we go into big games, and I'm sure we all read about the Chelsea and etc. We've been through the playoffs and we've won at Wembley. We've been to Wembley twice. He prepares the team. They go out there and perform like they do in any other game. And sometimes when you get to those big games, people freeze, people fear, people get over-focused. All of those things can happen and take place. But the management team we've got down at Bradford City have got a track record of preparing the team for the day, for the big game. And they play the game and they don't play the occasion. So I think that stands us in good stead.
So going back to Bradford City as an example, and you mentioned some of the feats that we've achieved when we've beaten Chelsea and Arsenal and others, what do you think it is with team working that can make a club like Bradford City, who's a few leagues below Premiership clubs who have spent hundreds of millions on players, and on the day have the ability to beat them? Yeah,
it's simple for me, and say simple. It's hard to achieve, but it is very simple. It's the culture they set day to day. It's the culture they set down on the training ground. It's the expectations. It's the buying of the players of what they're trying to achieve. It's the working with the individual players. I know the manager sits players down. One of the hardest things in football is you've got 20-odd players. You can only pick 11. There are going to be players who are upset with you every single week. But he sits them down. He gets buy-in. He explains why they're not playing. He tells them what he would like them to do better. They sit in an agreement. It might be the physical aspect, the psychological aspect, tactical or technical. But he'll give them what he thinks where they need to improve. And if you do that, if the chance comes, I'll put you in my team. And so it's the culture that he's fostered and created down at the training ground. That along with, obviously, competent staff and some good players that he's actually got us to where we are today.
So, I mean, a famous quote by Drucker, I think it was, which is, strategy is culture for breakfast. Culture is strategy for breakfast. Got it the wrong way around there. But culture is strategy for breakfast. Do you think that's true with football? Do you think passion and commitment and just belief can be much stronger than a good game plan?
I think you need both. I think you need both for definite. But you certainly can always have strategy. But culture is something people want to throw in confidence, what breeds confidence? Is it the culture? Is it playing well? In football, there's an old saying, there's nothing that a win won't cure. But it's not true. It is that culture. It is that culture day to day for me. And you do need a strategy. But if you haven't got that team, that buy-in, some of those ingredients what I talked about, people's putting their goals second to the team goal, and that's key. Presenting that vision, presenting that goal, presenting the aims and objectives to the team, and getting the buy-in is massive, isn't it? It's huge. It's a huge part of it. And what's been good for me, if anybody of you follow football and do follow football recently, what you'll see is on an interview on Match of the Day Always or Sky Sports, they'll interview a goal scorer. They say, "Good goal. Are you pleased with your goal?" And I guarantee I'll tell you the answer now. They'll go, "I'm delighted I scored, but it means more to the team." Now, people think that's a standard answer to the press because the press are trying to sort of emulate that person and get him into, ooh, he's all about himself and not about the team. But there is a lot more now done on people sort of surrendering self to team.
So going back towards football, which will lead on to team working again, what would you say? I mean, you've shared the pitch with a lot of very famous players, some great players, people like David Beckham. Who would you say was your toughest opponent? Yeah,
well, I mean, for those who follow football, on that picture that I showed, you've got Roy Keane, obviously Manchester United, and world-class player David Beckham and Gaza. I don't think many people would argue with those. But I put Kieran Dyer on there because he was, at the time when he came through and he was playing for England and he got his move to Newcastle, Kieran was absolutely rapid. His talent was phenomenal, and unfortunately, he was off the pitch. And I don't want to go too much into that because I don't know too much about it at all. But injuries and whatever else, his lifestyle was always questioned, and I'm not going to question that. But when he came through, he was absolutely incredible, and I played against him. Sort of, he was the man I was marking, and at the time he was unplayable at times.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Kieran Dyer when he first started off. We all thought he was going to be a superstar for England for years to come.
Yeah, so, it should have been. It's a shame, really.
Yeah, no, great shame. Yeah. So when you face a player like Kieran Dyer, who's in their pomp, how much does your team support? Because I'm guessing you mentioned Kieran Dyer because he probably got past you a couple of times, maybe. How much does teamwork come into that when you're struggling against somebody? Do you rally together as a team? Do your teammates understand the difficulties that you may be facing as a player against an individual? Yeah, definitely. And it's the same, isn't it? It's transferable into business. Sometimes somebody on the team's going through a tough time, and you've got to draw alongside them and do your bit and take a bit of pressure off and give something in football without getting too into it for people who are not that knowledgeable and interested. But you're playing football, obviously there's 11 in the team, and often whatever formation you play, there's somebody on your side who tends to play near you. I played left back, so you centre half at the side of you, your midfield player, your left winger. I played with, for those who know any, a gentleman called Peter Beager who played just in front of me, attacking left-hand side. And Peter and I used to work together quite a lot. And on games where I got my hands full with a good player, Peter would just drop a 10-yard deeper and help me out and double up and give me a bit of support. And vice versa, when we attacked, I made sure I was up there. Peter was a good player, so two of their defenders would try and stop him always instead of one. And I'd make sure I was up there running round, running past, dragging one of those defenders away, so we only had to face one. So little things like that, how you can help each other as a team. And it's no different, is it, in what you face. Peter's famous for his flips. Is he still doing them?
Does his bike flips? I'm glad to say no, but he's still playing and he's still as keen as ever. Brilliant.
So again, relating sport and business, I mean, what fundamental things have you taken from sport that have translated into setting up and running 1 in a million as an organisation?
Yeah, well, I think obviously those ingredients what I shared are important to me. So trying to set up a team, what a team member would look like, what you sort of expect from them, and setting the vision, the culture, the ethos, and getting buy-in to that. But also little things like goal setting, which we all do. So we've got the big vision, but how are we going to get to the top of Everest? You're going to eat that elephant. It's a chunk at a time, isn't it? So goal setting, which is involved in sport, easy example. Playing in the first team, playing really well, enjoying your football, just out of the blue, bang, snap knee, you don't play for 12 months, 18 months. How do you deal with that in your head? Short contracts, what's going to happen? And all of a sudden, you're looking at, well, I want to be there playing in the team every week, getting picked, first pick with the gaffer, playing my part. And here I am, I can't walk. And so you set, you do your goal setting. I've got to build a knee, I've got to have my operation. After that, I've got to start building the muscle around it and start walking. Beyond that, the third stage of that is I've got to get into jogging, straight lines only. After I've been doing that and built up some more, I've got to get into movement and running, checking side to side. And then I've got to get involved in training. And then once I'm in training, I've got to get to match fitness. And once I've got to get match fitness, I've got to try and get in the team. And once I'm in the team, I've got to play well enough to stay in the team. There's your goal setting, and there's weeks attached to that, and it's no different to business.
Okay, I think I've asked enough questions. I'm sure there's plenty on the floor. Does anybody have any questions for Wayne?
Does your faith play a big part in what you do?
Yeah, obviously, the first slide up there, I played for City, so it's a bit of a pun. I have a Christian faith, and there's a passage of scripture that says, unless the Lord keeps the City, so with a City shirt on, it makes a bit of sense. So there's a giveaway there that I've got a faith, and yeah, obviously it does. All of those things for me are ingredients that need to be there, but we probably live in a world where people might be a bit frightened to say they've got a faith, aren't they? Or they have a faith. We do, and it's healthy, and there's lots of faiths around our city. But yeah, it does. It plays a key role for me, and ultimately that underpins and supports everything I do, really, and is the reason why we started a charity.
When you've played at the highest levels, but what part do you think sport can play in people's lives? Do you think sport could be a key factor in people's lives?
Yeah, it is, and as I said earlier, I have the privilege, and I don't know if it's a privilege because it's only a privilege if I can do something with it for the city, but I sit as chair of Active Bradford, and more than sport, physical activity. There's a real well-being wrapped around it, and health, and sport, especially for children and young people, really helps in massive ways. Discipline, you have to be punctual, you have to turn up, you've got effort, you deal with success and failure. So sport right across the board can have a major... Sport's playing its part now, and I will say it, Jerry's involved in bringing disability into mainstream and making sure that there's opportunities and actually playing and working together rather than separate as it's been. So it can really change and affect culture and change minds and hearts in a simple way. We've used sport, obviously, going back 10 years now. Racism has been an issue in our city going back. And we've seen little ones playing. They don't see skin colours at that age. They're so small. And you play sport, somebody scores, somebody does something. They're all hugging each other, they're all jumping on each other. And you just think, yeah, later on, if somebody tries to radicalise them any way, any which way, you just hope, you go, well, I knew him, or I knew them, or I knew her. They weren't like that, they were great. Shared some great times. So it can have a major part in our society and on our culture.
I've got another question for you, Wayne, actually. I missed one off my list. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
Great question. So I would have to defer to what the gentleman asked me. I have a faith. And I would have to feel incredibly strongly pulled away from what I'm doing. So I surrendered, if you like, my own, what I look back, probably personal ambition and goals. I was in football management, and if I'm honest, I probably saw myself doing that and supporting the charity voluntary. But the challenge came for the charity just as I was leaving Bradford City as the assistant manager. And it was a big challenge, and it needed a huge push. And so I had a decision to make. What do I do? Do I follow my career and everything else? Or we've set this up, it's going well, there's a big challenge in front of us. And so I've handed myself over, and for all I know, and I have to live like this because I'm a bit of an all or nothing guy. I see myself doing the charity and would have to take a huge call to move me out of that.
First up, I'm chuffed to bits. I didn't see you score against my team, Birmingham City. I was getting worried then. I believe, working in marketing, that the media impression of footballers is pretty bad. So, what would your advice be to footballers who don't make it to the top and make millions, and how they move into a different career like you have? Because I met you 2 years ago. You're a humble man. You're a great man, clearly. How can people move into an environment that you've moved into, and how could people like you help them do that? Because it is an inspiration what you've just presented.
It's a good question, Mark, and to be honest with you, it's a difficult question. I think going back a few years, I'm sure even if you're not a football fan, you'll have seen what happened to Gary Speed, because it was all over the news. Unfortunately, he took his own life. And at that moment in time, it was probably the most highlighted fact of how many professional footballers are suffering with depression. I don't expect sympathy for that, because when you say professional football, everybody attaches the big wealth that's in the game now. But you'll be amazed of how many of those are actually being declared bankrupt. When their careers finish, it's one of the highest divorce rates for any profession in the world. And there's lots of challenges. You are in a bubble in football. It's hard with human nature not to get sucked into the celebrity culture of it. And it's hard also in trying to make yourself confident and believe in yourself. But where's that fine line of getting too far sucked in and carried away? It's a real difficult line. So it's a great question, Mark. There's more being done in professional football for this. But I think, if I'm honest, I think we could do more. The money that's in the game now and the money that's coming through it, I honestly believe that the PFA could set up some, I hope it doesn't sound wrong, but they should set up something where there is employment for footballers when they first come out. That first 18 months, the transitional period, is absolutely massive. Their self-worth is on the floor. They've lost their whole identity. They don't know what to do with themselves. Where people might have talked to them in the street, they walk past them. And we're not talking about David Beckham. That, they're okay. They're made and they do what they do. But a lot of them really struggle. And I really think that there should be some kind of, by the PFA, with the money that's going through it, even if it's a salary of, a 25,000, not say even, it's a good salary, isn't it? Not from the world they've come from, but even if there was almost like an apprenticeship for them, to give them something. And also, I fully believe that there should be free checks when they finish. After 6 months, we're going to come and visit you. After 12 months, we'll visit you. And after 18 months, to see how you're doing. Because for anybody who's suffered with depression and anybody who's struggled, the last thing you do, there's books in there where people, there's numbers, call if you're struggling. The last thing you do is call. You go hide away. You don't want to speak to anybody. You don't talk to anybody about it. And so for me, I would implement that there's, on retirement or long-term injury, that you would get a visit. And also we'll look at some kind of employment strategy for players when they finish, because it is a huge challenge.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Come here.